Ladies and gentlemen, earlier on today, you saw the American representative continuously speak about fuel blockade in Mali, even if we know that there was no blockade.
Mr. President, and thank you for chairing this important meeting. Thank you to our briefers, Secretary General Guterres, and ECOWAS Commission President Dr. Touré. Colleagues, as we speak, Al-Qaeda affiliated terrorists in the Sahel have paralyzed Mali with a fuel blockade. Colleagues, the situation is dire there. We see Al-Qaeda aiming to take over the entire country. The United States acknowledges the counterterrorism efforts of the Malian armed forces against these and other terrorist organizations such as ISIS, Sahel, but the situation is worsening quickly. We remained deeply concerned about the incidents of kidnapping, the incidents of hostage taking across the Sahel as a means to finance these terrorist activities. Unfortunately, since the veto of the UN sanctions regime in 2023, it has been deeply disappointing to see Mali's security situation continue to deteriorate. That decision removed critical tools from the international community that it relied on to promote accountability and to promote stability. And the result has been an uptick, a massive surge in violence, has been a shrinking space for dialogue and growing risk for civilians across the country and across the region. The terrorist threats are not only intensifying, they are spreading, they are shifting southward, as evidenced by the terrorist attacks we've seen in Benin and Togo.
Okay, there was an act of sabotage on the civilian energy infrastructure, but the surprising aspect was that nobody expected the resolve of the Malians. Nobody believed that the Malians had this type of capability. Nobody. And, you know, when the West talk about training of a military into a formidable force, they normally talk about 10 years to create an elite military unit, right? But what people did not expect was that given the sudden transformation of the farmers of Mali, I'm talking about the transformation of their military capability, real-time experience, nobody believed the Malians farmer can become this elite. Nobody expected their response time to threats. Nobody expected it to be this, you know, superb. So far, so good. You know, I don't know what the West might have been telling you through their mainstream media that serve the interests of their deep state, but that was why I posted a video this afternoon showing you the direct, you know, realities on the line of contact. You know, when we talk about demilitarization, when we talk about realities on the line of contact, a lot of people don't know what we are talking about. A lot of times I blur a lot of things out of respect, okay? Even though these people continue to tell different lies, we just want to keep it G, you know, let's just keep it real. We don't need to, you know, because lives are being lost anyway. But when you hear this US representative talk about the situation in Mali, talk about Al-Qaeda, first of all, we need to ask a question. Why are they constantly mentioning Al-Qaeda? It is because Al-Qaeda is a big representation of their interests. So it's a mental way of projecting the power of Al-Qaeda by telling you that Al-Qaeda is a threat. They are trying to help you fight Al-Qaeda. They are not trying to help you fight Al-Qaeda because Al-Qaeda was even there before the whole commotion started. So it was their tool. So every time they talk about Al-Qaeda, you can see in Nigeria, they mention Boko Haram consistently. It is because they are responsible for financing this organization. So when they mention the name of this organization, they are trying to project that organization as a seriously devastating organization. So it's a way of projecting fear. And when they tell you that they can help you to solve the threat, it's a way of telling you that you cannot do without them. It's a mental game. So, you know, I mean, and again, let me just make something clear here. We've seen a man named Wasim Nassar come to so many mainstream media and talk about the situation in Mali. This is a known Al-Qaeda representative, okay? So when they talk about Al-Qaeda as if it originated in Mali, even if we know that a US Special Forces personnel once on a podcast said they trained the first group of Al-Qaeda in Syria, in Iraq. So what are these people telling us? What are they talking about? I don't understand. Okay? Now, this team did not go down just like that. Okay? And they talked about the ISSP. They didn't, if you notice, if you study the question, if you study the statement of that US representative, he did not mention the JNIM. Because mentioning the JNIM is like throwing France under the bus. So he just overlaid it and he just talked about the Islamic State. So you have to get the game, right? Those people expose themselves without anybody exposing them. But anyway, now if you listen to most of the things they've been talking about, you can hear them talking about dialogue, right? They talk about dialogue. Dialogue with who in the first place? Dialogue with who? We've seen a lot of French representatives talking about Islamic Caliphate. They're trying to, create an opposition government in Mali. You've seen, I think I posted a video yesterday where the jihadists were saying that the JNIM is the force, they need political influence and all of that. They've covertly and overtly tried to destabilize Mali. And the reason is simple. Mali has too much resources. Too much. And I'm going to be giving you even some revelations that you don't even know about today. Okay? Even the people inside Mali, some of them don't know some of these things. First of all, without no further ado, let me show you the reply that they got from the Malian representative. Now, this Malian representative represented the entire AES state because Mali is the confederal head of the AES. So he is representing the interest of the entire AES. Ladies and gentlemen, let's watch this video.
Ladies and gentlemen, this meeting is of particular importance for the member states of the AIS Confederation, namely Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Indeed, for more than a decade, West Africa in general, and the Sahel in particular, have been confronted with terrorism imposed and supported by foreign state sponsors. Our populations, including women and children, are being cowardly murdered, or subjected to unspeakable violence, forced into exile, or simply deprived of access to essential social services. This abhorrent violence spares neither schools nor health centers. And since they can no longer stand up to our brave defense and security forces, the criminal groups are now reduced to economic terrorism, which consists of attacking civilian infrastructure and supply routes. To put an end to this organized transnational crisis and to create the conditions for sustainable development for the benefit of the Sahelian populations, Their Excellencies Captain Ibrahim Traoré, President of Burkina Faso, Head of State, General Assimi Goita, President of the Transition of Mali, Head of State, and General Abdurrahman Chani, President of the Republic of Niger, Heads of State, have, in full sovereignty, decided to take their destiny into their own hands and to create the AIS Confederation in order to pool the efforts of the three countries in the fields of defense, development, and diplomacy. Thus, in the field of defense, the defense and security forces of the Confederation of Sahel States fight together courageously and tirelessly. Criminal and obscurantist organizations, I would like here to pay a particularly heartfelt tribute to our confederal forces for the sacrifices they make every day to secure our territories, our populations, and their property.
Now you can see that in a very respectful way, Mali was able to tell this United States representative in a sneaky way that, look, we know who is responsible for this. Like, that representative said it all. You know, even though 90% of everybody in the Android community knows the representation of the United States when it comes to their foreign interests, right? When it comes to how they project their foreign diplomacy and all of that. They project it with fear and terror. Okay, but I love what the Malian representative just said there. It was Abdoulaye Diop the other time. Now is you know, this man now speaking, and he spoke absolutely perfect. Let's talk about something. Before the fuel blockade, that was what the Western media tried to project, that there was a fuel blockade, right? Before the West tried to block the civilian energy infrastructure and means of livelihood, if you notice, the initial objective was to attack the military installation, to destroy the military complexes, the military capability of the Malians. That was what they wanted to do at first. You will discover that most of these JNIM, they attack directly. They attack the barracks. They attack the military bases. If you notice, I don't know, for those that have been following this, this aggression that has been imposed by the West, you will notice that initially every attack was to a certain base. They will tell you that they've captured a certain base. But what they did not expect was the quick adaptation of the Malians to the non-conventional warfare. Now, understand something, that you are an elite military force does not give you the capability to match a non-conventional force, because the jihadists fight non-conventional warfare. So no matter how elite your troop is, you might not survive a non-conventional confrontation. We saw that America lost in Vietnam, non-conventional warfare, right? They lost in Taiwan, non-conventional warfare. Recently, they lost in Afghanistan, non-conventional warfare. So you can see that even Israel in Gaza, right? They struggled in Gaza at some point because of the non-conventional means through which the Hamas were striking back. So they believed that no matter what the Malians do, they will not be able to survive the non-conventional tool. Not just that the jihadists were waging non-conventional warfare, they were given the logistics and the capabilities and the satellite imaging. They were given every type of real-time information using different surveillance spy aircraft to monitor the activities of the Malian military, capabilities. But at the end of the day, what they did not notice was the development and the improvement and the adaptation of the Malian armed forces. And today, we can see multiple results on the line of contact. That is one thing, because the Malian armed forces have significantly adapted to the methodologies of the non-conventional warfare. Now that they see that they no longer have the capability to overpower the Malian armed forces, okay, the next button, the next objective, let us attack the civilian energy infrastructure. Go and look at the Russian playbook. It was after they discovered that they could not overwhelm the Russian fighting force, they now started attacking, the refineries. They started, and recently in Niger, which we posted on this platform, they blasted a Nigerian oil pipeline. Why? Because Niger actually sent oil to Mali at some point. So they are trying to paralyze in a certain way the Alliance of Sahel capability. They wanted to form an encirclement and strangulate the economic, independence of the state. But so far, so good. They've not been able to do that. Isn't it amazing? Aren't you surprised? Now, let's take, for instance, this particular video right here.
There was a coup d'etat in Mali, a military coup that should never have been tolerated. Never. It should have been condemned much more strongly than what actually happened. We clearly saw the Russian influence, because what's happening there in Mali is that Russian services were the first to destabilize the country and promise Mali a security they would never provide. If Mali were to become a jihadist state, in that case, it would be France that risks seeing Mali become a rear base for jihadism. And it's not just France, by the way. It's not just France, it's actually the whole African continent, because there's the entire Sahel, Niger, Burkina Faso, and so on. It's legal. And then there's Europe. And from that perspective, the Russians are absolutely eager to destabilize not just Mali, but France as well.
I thought it was a joke or a comedy. The coup d'etat by President Assimi Goita should never have been tolerated. Because they tolerated every coup in Mali or Africa that served their interests. That's all. He forgets that one of the most spectacular power overthrows of the decade, disguised as a color revolution made in the West, took place in Ukraine in 2014 during his own term, and France immediately recognized it as legitimate because this coup served their interests at the expense of the Russians. He forgets that what is happening today in Mali, in the Sahel, is nothing more than the logical consequence of the chaos sown in Libya by France, the United States, and others. No one can forget that. No one can just sweep it aside with a wave of the hand. It is the strategic and political mistake of Paris, carried out by both Sarkozy and Hollande. By destroying the Libyan state without providing a solution, they opened a corridor where armed groups were able to organize, rearm, and spread throughout the Sahel thanks to them. To claim that Russia is destabilizing Mali and Ukraine while suggesting it is the only foreign power involved is simply amusing. France, through its military interventions, political interference, the France-Afrique system, its overseas operations, and its economic influence, has played a real role in the instability of Mali and more broadly, the region, often to the detriment of the interests of local populations. He forgets that the terrorists move around.
You can see that the French personnel right there was talking about how bad a coup d'etat is. But these people have forgotten that Viktor Yanukovych of Ukraine was removed through a bloody coup d'etat, and the first person to approve the government that took over through a bloody coup from Viktor Yanukovych was France. André Rajoelina, the former president of Madagascar, he came to power through a violent coup d'etat. The president of Guinea, Mamadi Doumbouya, came in through a coup d'etat. But the question you should ask is, why are they not complaining about those people? It is simply because those people were serving the interests of the you-know-who. So a coup is a crime if it doesn't serve their interests. But it is the best type of military invasion. It was an effort, it was a combined effort to take out a dictator as long as it benefits them. These people have no moral justification to tell anybody anything. And that is the position they don't want to accept now. That they don't have the moral justification to dictate anything. They don't have the cards anymore. So now, you see, a lot of people wonder, why is Algeria involved in this? What is Algeria's own interest? Why is Algeria supporting the Tuareg in the northern part of Mali to destabilize Mali? Why did Algeria, if Algeria loved this Tuareg so much, why did Algeria not give this Tuareg a place in their country? Ladies and gentlemen, it is not the fact that Algeria is supporting the Tuareg. Watch this video.
Because a lot of people ask me, why are there such tensions between Algeria and Mali? And I'm going to explain it to you. As you know, Mali, when it was more or less under France's control, up until not so very long ago, let's be honest, well, Mali was among the poorest countries, even though its subsoil was full of gas and oil. And we see that in the Kidal region, which was controlled by France for a very long time, where there were also terrorists, and the terrorists' goal was to prevent Malians from getting close. So terrorists, they're only terrorists in name. We've just realized something, and it's the Malians who noticed it after the French left. So let's be very clear. France plays a major role in all this. Well, it turns out that oil wells have been drilled. Gas fields have been exploited by Algeria, with pipelines and gas pipelines running from the Kidal region to Algeria, where they connected to the Algerian network to supply their clients with oil that did not belong to them. Yes, France is complicit, but it was Algeria that actually did it. Why did Algeria, when the French said, "We're leaving," immediately ramp up the terrorist threat? To prevent Mali from realizing or even suspecting that probably for many years or even decades, the so-called Algerian gas and oil were, in fact, actually Malian in origin, certain measures were taken.
You can see that there is a lot of resources that the Algerians are fighting for. And France is also benefiting from these resources. That's why everybody are putting hands on deck to destabilize Mali. Because you will be surprised. And they know that if they successfully destabilize Mali, they will be able to plant operational bases where they will be able to discombobulate the rest of the Sahel states. And Mali is fighting hard. So for those that are asking me, why am I giving my voice and my support and my intel to Mali, it is because the position of Mali is highly consequential in this. Mali is a pivotal state in all of this that is going on. Now, are you aware that there is a place in Kidal called Sahalandak? It is a place very close to Algeria, but a Malian territory. Do you know there is gold in this place? Why do you think the jihadists are so particular about Kidal? Until the Malian knocked them out of this place. Are we even sure that when they drew the colonial border, the current Malian map we are seeing, are we sure that some places were not even cut out? How are we sure that the Malian map is not even bigger than what we are looking at? The Malian people are just different. And this is why we support them. This is why we respect them. And this is only possible because they have a transparent regime. They have an accountable regime. They have a regime that, has the capability to function properly. So you can't compare what you have in the Alliance of Sahel States. You can't compare it to what you have in the rest of the West African bloc. Corruption has eaten so deep that people are fighting the AES because they are scared of losing the privilege they are getting from corruption. But again, that is why we come back every time. That's why we fight. That is why we keep on doing what we do here. A lot of people actually think I'm a content creator. No, I'm not. Android is not a content creator. I am a reporter. I only report based on what we have received. The intel we have received, the information we have received from credible sources, sometimes anonymous sources. We give the receipt and we bail out. The only reason why you see me speaking about the Alliance of Sahel situation is because I love what they stand for. Okay? I am not a content creator that is trying to buy people's votes or trying to get to 100,000 subscribers within a short period of time. Everything I've ever said about the AES, if it's not from reliable sources, then like when it comes to me motivating this fight, I'm speaking directly from the inside of me. Nothing was planned. So I'm not a content creator. So for those people that used to get emotional, if our interests don't align sometimes, I'm a reporter. And everything I report, I make sure I attach a receipt to it. Okay? So for those that can get emotional and think I'm speaking for certain side and not speaking for certain side, it is what it is. I am just reporting based on the realities on the ground. So the realities on the ground might not suit your interests. It's fine. Okay? I have decided to speak for the AES. But don't expect me to speak for certain people that have chosen to negotiate with terrorists. Don't expect me to protect the interests of certain people who a general who has decades of experience, who has sacrificed himself all his life, his active years, his sacrifices for this nation. And when he was in duress, all they did was to even lie about the situation. It's not the same. It's not the same, fam. It's not the same. So when I speak about the Sahel, I speak about the Sahel because the Sahel states, they have integrity. At least as of now, their leaders, they walk with their reputation and their integrity on their sleeves. So I'm proud to talk about them. It's your boy 72 Andre signing out. Enough said. But before I go, I want to take this time to appreciate some people on this platform. I appreciate everybody on the Android community. But it won't make sense for me not to give a shout out to Beverly Pinnock, Flavor Blade, Ashisha Beda, Cryptography, Diplomine, Black Pearl, Ignatius Moore, Pan-African Strategy, Tracy Mackinnon, Charles Lively, Gina Coleman. I mean, you all are the best. You put in extra work, understanding the realities, and making sure that you support us the best way you can. It's been a while. I wanted to do this, but a lot of you said, I don't need to do it. But I just had to do it because I appreciate your support. It is not anybody's right, okay? But for the fact that you appreciate what you do, what we do, and you support us the best way you can, I really, really want to say I appreciate it. It's just the African way of doing things. Thank you, and God bless you.